Daniel Rivera was the kind of captain every player envied and every coach trusted. At 21, he carried himself with a discipline that made him seem untouchable. On the field, his voice commanded attention. Off the field, his smile disarmed suspicion. His boyfriend, Ethan Clark, was proud to call him his. For 3 years, Ethan had stood by him, quiet, steady, loyal to the core. To the outside world, Daniel had everything: talent, leadership, and a partner who believed in him without doubt. But Daniel carried a secret hunger, one that Ethan could never see. Discipline was only half his identity. The other half, the reckless, craving side, burned whenever temptation brushed against it. That temptation had a name: Liam Hayes. Liam was a freshman on the team, newly recruited, bright-eyed, and dangerously charming. He admired Daniel with the intensity of someone who saw him not just as a captain, but as a man worth orbiting. What began as casual respect soon carried an edge. Liam lingered longer after practice, asking Daniel for tips, his voice too warm, his eyes too steady. At first, Daniel dismissed it. Ethan's trust was sacred, and he reminded himself of that every night he lay beside him. But Ethan's devotion, though comforting, sometimes felt like air he had grown too used to breathing. Liam was fire, raw, flickering, and alive in a way that made Daniel's skin tighten with awareness. The shift was subtle: a brush of shoulders in the locker room, a laugh that stretched too far into silence, a compliment delivered with a tone that wasn't entirely about football. Daniel caught himself watching Liam when he shouldn't. He told himself it was harmless, mentorship, nothing more. Yet his chest tightened in ways that betrayed him. Ethan, ever trusting, never asked questions. He cooked for them both, shared long study nights, and touched Daniel with the quiet familiarity of someone who thought he was the only one. That was Ethan's flaw, his faith, and Daniel knew it. He knew he was balancing on a dangerous edge, one wrong step away from destroying everything. Still, temptation gnawed at him. The more he resisted Liam, the more he imagined what crossing the line might feel like. The conflict wasn't loud yet. It was quiet, almost invisible, living in the late-night texts Liam sent after practice. Harmless questions about training times, laced with undertones Daniel pretended not to notice. He'd stare at the glowing screen in the dark, Ethan asleep beside him, and his thumb would hover above the reply button longer than it should. One night, Liam's message lingered in his mind. "You're different from the others. I like being around you." Daniel locked his phone, dropped it on the nightstand, and rolled over. Ethan shifted in his sleep, curling closer to him, warm and steady. Daniel stared at the ceiling, trapped between two worlds, the comfort of love and the thrill of danger. And for the first time, he admitted to himself, the perfect illusion would not hold forever. Temptation rarely announces itself. It creeps in, quiet as breath, until resistance feels like pretense. For Daniel, it began with texts that should have been ignored. Liam's words came late at night, glowing against the darkness of Daniel's bedroom. At first, the messages were ordinary: training schedules, workout advice. But soon, they bent into something sharper. "You push me harder than anyone else. You make me want to be better." Then later, "I can't stop thinking about our talks after practice." Daniel told himself it was harmless, a freshman's admiration for his captain. But the more he read, the less he believed it. His replies grew longer, warmer. What began as mentorship started to feel like intimacy. Ethan never noticed. He kissed Daniel goodnight, whispered encouragement before big games, and slept soundly while Daniel's mind tangled itself in guilt and desire. Ethan's love was unshakable, but Daniel's discipline was eroding. The break came on an ordinary evening after practice. The locker room was nearly empty, the air heavy with sweat and steam. Liam lingered, as he often did, watching Daniel lace his shoes with a grin that bordered on daring. "You ever get tired of being perfect?" Liam asked, his tone casual but his eyes steady. Daniel smirked, deflecting. "Perfection's part of the job." Liam stepped closer, close enough that Daniel felt the charge in the air. "Maybe you don't always have to play by the rules." The word stuck, sharp and sweet. For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. Then Liam's hand brushed his arm, and it was enough. The barrier Daniel had built cracked wide open. Later that night, Liam followed Daniel back to his dorm room under the excuse of reviewing plays. But the playbook never left the desk. Silence hung between them, weighted and dangerous. Liam moved first, closing the gap, pressing his mouth to Daniel's with a force that left no room for denial. The kiss was everything Daniel feared: electric, forbidden, and irresistible. He tried to pull back, muttering Ethan's name like a plea, but Liam's hands were already at his waist, pulling him deeper into the storm. Desire overpowered reason. Clothes scattered, restraint vanished. Daniel surrendered, knowing full well the cost of his betrayal. When it was over, reality hit like a cold wind. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, sweat cooling on his skin, guilt settling heavier than exhaustion. Ethan's face flickered in his mind. The trust, the devotion, the years of loyalty. "This doesn't have to change anything," Liam whispered from the sheets, his tone coaxing, almost triumphant. "No one has to know." Daniel stared at the floor, jaw clenched. The line he swore never to cross was behind him now, and there was no erasing it. He crawled into bed later beside Ethan, who curled against him, warm and trusting. But Daniel's body stiffened with the knowledge of what he had done. For the first time, he understood. The secret thrill wasn't fleeting. It was only the beginning. Infidelity thrives in shadows, and Daniel quickly learned how to live there. By day, he was a reliable captain, the boyfriend who showed up on time and answered Ethan's questions with easy smiles. By night, he became something else: reckless, hungry, pulled into Liam's orbit with a force he no longer resisted. Their encounters blurred into a rhythm. A stolen kiss in the locker room, a hurried touch in the showers, late-night whispers in Daniel's dorm when Ethan was away studying. The secrecy made each meeting feel like fire stolen from the gods. Dangerous, intoxicating, impossible to resist. Yet double lives always leak. Ethan began noticing the cracks. Missed calls, messages left unanswered, the faint trace of cologne he didn't own lingering on Daniel's hoodie. He brushed it off at first. Trust was Ethan's nature, but unease gnawed at him. He asked subtle questions, watched Daniel's distracted eyes, and wondered if love alone could blind him. Daniel convinced himself he could handle it. He told himself Liam was just an indulgence, a secret that lived in the dark. But Liam was no longer satisfied with scraps. "I'm tired of hiding," Liam said one evening after practice, voice edged with frustration. "Don't I matter to you beyond these stolen hours?" Daniel froze. Liam's eyes were fierce, searching for something more than lust. "You knew what this was," Daniel muttered, defensive. "You said you didn't care about labels, that the secrecy excited you." "That was before," Liam shot back. "I don't want to be your secret forever." The words rattled Daniel more than he admitted, because beneath his captain's confidence, he knew Liam wanted what he could never give: open acknowledgement, the role Ethan already filled. And Ethan, loyal to a fault, still planned their future as if betrayal weren't already burning its way through the walls of their relationship. The pressure mounted. Ethan booked a weekend trip for the two of them, a chance to escape campus and reconnect. He spoke about it with quiet excitement, unaware of the storm raging just beneath Daniel's calm exterior. That night, while Ethan showered, Daniel sat on the bed, phone in hand. Liam's message lit the screen. "Do you think of me when you're with him?" Daniel's thumb hovered. His chest tightened. He typed back quickly, almost instinctively, before he could reason himself out of it. "More than I should." The words hung heavy on the screen, heavier still in his chest. He slid the phone under the pillow as Ethan emerged from the bathroom, smiling, towel draped casually around his neck. Ethan leaned down, kissed Daniel softly, and whispered, "This trip will be good for us." Daniel forced a smile, but his heart was already sinking. He was living two lives, and both were beginning to crumble. And in that moment, he knew secrets are never safe forever. The weekend trip was supposed to heal what Daniel's choices had already poisoned. Ethan booked the cabin, packed their favorite meals, and spoke of quiet mornings and long hikes. To him, it was a retreat into love. To Daniel, it was a cage lined with guilt. On their first night there, Ethan waited until the fire burned low before speaking. His voice was steady, almost too calm. "Daniel, who is Liam?" Daniel froze. His breath caught as the name cracked the illusion wide open. He searched Ethan's eyes and found no rage, only hurt so deep it silenced him. Ethan held up the phone he had borrowed earlier that day. The messages were there. Every word Daniel thought was hidden. "I gave you everything," Ethan whispered, his tone breaking more than his volume. "Was I not enough?" Daniel stammered, apologies spilling without shape. Words like mistake and weakness tripped from his mouth, but they sounded hollow, cowardly. Ethan shook his head, tears catching the firelight. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed us." The silence that followed was unbearable. Daniel wanted to reach out, to anchor Ethan before he slipped away, but Ethan stood and left the room, shutting the door softly, too softly for the storm that raged between them. Back on campus, Daniel sought refuge in Liam. The younger man greeted him with a smile that quickly faded when he saw Daniel's haunted expression. "He knows, doesn't he?" Liam asked. Daniel nodded. For a moment, Liam reached for him, as if offering comfort. But then the frustration surfaced. "So what now? Do I finally get to be more than your secret?" Daniel's throat tightened. He couldn't answer, because the truth was brutal. He wanted Ethan's stability and Liam's fire, both worlds bound to him. But now one was gone, and the other demanded more than he could give. Liam pulled back, anger replacing tenderness. "I won't be your shadow anymore. If you can't choose me, then don't choose me at all." His words cut clean, leaving Daniel with nothing but the echo of doors closing. First Ethan's, now Liam's. Days later, Daniel walked onto the field, captain's armband snug on his arm. The cheers still rose for him. The team still looked to him for leadership. But inside, he felt hollow. The crowd couldn't see the emptiness carved by betrayal, the loneliness earned by his own hands. That night, he sat alone in his dorm, jersey crumpled on the chair, phone silent for the first time in months. No messages, no whispers, no illusions left to hide behind. He was still the captain, still admired, but stripped of love, stripped of trust. He finally understood the cost of his hidden play. And in that emptiness, Daniel realized the cruelest truth. Sometimes you don't lose because you're beaten. You lose because you played the wrong game.